Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I've got another interview for you tonight with a guy called Marcus Slabine. He is got a big movie coming up called The Dark Offerings. So I'm going to get this interview started. So sit back, relax and enjoy.
Hey,
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, my man?
Not bad, thanks. Not bad. Not bad. Loving the posters behind you. Loving it.
Thanks, my man. Thank you. This is actually going to be one of the ones that we're giving out for the contest. It's almost all signed. It's missing a few over here and over there, but yeah, no, it's definitely one of the ones that we're going to be giving out. I love the abnormal attraction one you got behind you.
Yes. It is actually signed by the guys as well from Fuzz on the Lens. They've all signed it for me. So yeah, I was really pleased with that. So
Awesome. They're great. I love those guys.
yeah. You're doing a lot of work with them. You got quite a bit coming up with them.
Yeah. I'm going to be working with them on their newest film, Stream, which is, I'm not sure how much I'm even allowed to say or anything about it, but I can tell you it's going to be amazing. The cast is through the roof. The script is phenomenal. Like, it's going to be one of those. It's going to be a really awesome horror film. I'm stoked to work on it.
Yeah.
And I'll take any excuse to work with those guys. I think we've worked together 6 times now, like six separate projects actually, which is great. You know, we just did a short film not too long ago at the Chrysler Mansion in Staten Island, which was a really cool experience too.
Awesome. So you was at the drive-in as well, wasn't you, for the abnormal attraction? I saw the pictures.
Yeah, I was there for that. I've actually seen that film, Abnormal Attraction. I saw it at the premiere, I think on Staten Island. Yeah, on Staten Island. And then I saw it like twice when it was screening at 2 other festivals and whatnot. I instantly love the film. It's one of those films that, like, I don't want to call it a party film, but it's definitely like a Halloween film that you put on with a bunch of people and everyone just laughs their ass off at it. And it's just so well done, so well made. And I mean, you know, how can you beat Finbar, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I did say to Michael last week when I was speaking to him that when I come over in March, I am trying my hardest to come as Finbar. But it's trying to bring it all over with me and everything like that. It's just like I'm just gonna keep my fingers crossed. So
It'll happen. I'm hoping all of this passes by then, and we can actually get back to some type of normalcy. Hopefully, by here. You know, March is a long ways away, but yeah, they'll be at New Jersey HorrorCon, right?
Yeah.
We'll be there. We'll be screening Last Call and doing promotions for Dark Offerings. It's actually helps having them behind us.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So when are you hoping to get the Dark Offerings out for everybody to watch?
Soon, hopefully. We're just doing a couple of pickups this week. We just did it. We spent the weekend doing ADR with some of the cast, and we're just adding in a couple of like little things into the film. But aside from that, it's already cut. It's being colored by our lighting technician who helped us with the film, Dave Green, who's also edited and did CG for our other project, Janice and the Golden Fleece, which we also have coming out. And so he's coloring it right now. We have our composer, Christopher North, who composed Last Call, and he's composed a bunch of my films as well. He's already starting to go through the footage that we have currently that's cut together and coming up with some type of a score. And we have some bands that are already involved in it. One of them that's from the start, we had Jess Lantern, who's a horror singer who writes songs that are based on horror films and stuff like that, which is they're really cool songs. So we're really stoked that we got her on it. And yeah, so like we're hoping, like we're currently discussing with a friend of ours who did the trailer for Last Call, cutting the trailer for this, because we're hoping to get the trailer out, by Halloween. That's kind of the goal. We want to get it out there. We want to at least give people a sample of what this is and what we've all done back in. We shot this the beginning of May. Oh wow, yeah, right when the pandemic hit. That's crazy. Wow, feels like yesterday we just started up and shot, and we're going crazy with it, and still are.
It seems to have flown by. I mean, I remember Michael saying about it, and he was saying originally it wasn't meant to be a big film, was it? It was just going to be a short film as well, but it's turned into a big movie.
Yeah, so originally I had seen a couple of like really, really, really short pandemic films that had come out. And and Liz, who plays Sophia in it, the lead, and she also wrote it with me and is producing and doing the special effects. She had a really bad experience with COVID-19, and then afterward really wanted to create something. So when we were talking about doing something, I wanted to kind of shoot something quick, fast, like short, quick, fast, and just get it out there. And she was like, no, let's do it as a feature. And from there, we started messaging people, and being like, hey, we have this crazy idea to shoot something, and do you want to be a part of it? So, we obviously reached out to Michael, we reached out to Jason, we reached out to Paul Sheehan, who also he's been in everything. He plays the killer in this, the visual portion of him. Voices by David Mork. He's in Janice, he's in Breakin', he's been in everything. So we reached out to Paul. I had really wanted to work with Clifton Dunn for years, because our paths had crossed many, many times, and we've just been really good friends since then. And I've been wanting to work with him, so we got him. We brought some of our cast members from Janice and the Golden Fleece, which is Lydia Kalman and Tina Nikolova. They're both in this, and Benjamin Frankenberg, who I've known for years. And then we started reaching out to some of the name actors who were gung-ho about this. They really wanted to do this. Some of them reached out to us. It was a really cool experience, because once it started going, it just started rolling. And Dread Central was the first to pick us up, which was amazing. I've been way back in the day, I used to do a horror movie review website, and Dread Central was one of the big ones that I used to always look up to and stuff. So like getting on to Dread was like a dream come true. And then we got to Rue Morgue and Arrow in the Head, and like people were it just started popping up everywhere, and we were like, oh my god, this is amazing. And the whole cast is just, because we've been able to watch the rough cut of this from start to finish, and this cast is spectacular. Every one of them pulled out amazing performances. They just went above and beyond for this film, and like they really brought what Elizabeth and I wrote to life, and just created this really like fast-paced, energetic horror film. I'm really excited for everyone to see it.
Yeah, I've been keeping. I can't wait. I'm really excited. I keep checking the Facebook page. I'm like, come on. I know it'll get there. But, it's like a kid at Christmas, isn't it? It's like, you want to see it, and you want to see it now, but it's hard work. How was it writing? Like, how does it, like, obviously when you done the Last Call, you wrote that by yourself. How do you get into that mindset of, does it just pop into your head and you think, right, I've got to write this down, I've got to get it on paper?
So kind of. Basically, with Last Call, I've been bouncing around this idea of doing like a radio station horror film, because I saw this movie called Pontypool, and I really like this film. And if you haven't seen it, it's a horror film about radio station DJ that's playing during the start of the zombie apocalypse, where no one knows what's going on. And the film is very it's very like everything's happening outside the station, so it's really this claustrophobic setting, and I love that. So like I always wanted to do something, and then the opportunity arose, and Elizabeth and I were out with a friend who wanted to be in the film and stuff like that, and she actually knew Terry. She knew Terry Alexander, and she's like, "Oh, well, if you write something, I can give it to him, and if you know who he is." And I'm like, so I'm like, "Yes, it's Terry Alexander from Day of the Dead." So like, I wrote the script in like I threw it all down. Like I wrote one night, I sat down and I wrote for like 6 hours. The next morning, deleted the whole thing. And then rewrote it the next day. And in 4 days, I had the whole thing. And it just kind of poured out of me. It was like one of those things where it's like, I got to get this to him. I want to get Terry. So like, I took all of like the little bit of ideas. I tend to get like visions of like, okay, this is a cool part right here. And like, this should be the ending. And this character should say this here. And like, as I'm writing, like I connect those pieces, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And with Last Call was one of those scripts that just flowed and didn't really have too many alterations. A lot of it's cut out of the short. The short's actually the script is 30 minutes. It's 30 pages, and the final film is 18 minutes, I think. So we cut quite a bit out just to keep the pace going, and also because going to turn it into a feature, which is written right now. It just needs to be kind of cut down, and but it's one of those things that to go back to the question, yeah, like it kind of does just pour out of you once you start writing into it, and you get into that mindset, and you start hearing everyone's voices. And a funny story is so. Obviously, I knew Terry from Day of the Dead, where he has, the Jamaican accent. So I didn't know Terry doesn't normally have that accent. So when I met him, the whole time I'm thinking to myself, because the whole script I've written, with that accent in mind, and I'm like stuck on. I'm like, okay, how am I going to ask him to do this accent without sounding like a complete fanboy? And we're sitting there, and Terry just kind of leans over to me. He goes, when I do cons, sometimes people don't believe that I'm John from the film, so I have to do the voice. And when I do, they're like, oh, he's like, well, what if Harry had two personas? When he's off the air, he's got his normal voice. And then when he's on the air, he puts on this Jamaican accent, and he does this whole character type of thing. And I was like, sitting there trying not to geek out the whole time. Yeah, Terry, that sounds.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And that's why, like, he has the two voices, which works beautifully, because at that one moment when the killer says something that really offsets him. I'm trying to be very vague, which is hard. He loses his accent during that phone call for that one line. We don't have that tape. We don't have the prank show tapes anymore. Yeah. And he loses the accent for that 1 second. And it's like, it's so powerful in the way he does it. He's such an underrated actor. And
he's fantastic. He is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So are you quite good friends with Terry now? Are you, because he's like, I know he's also in the Dark Offerings as well.
Yeah, Terry and I are really good friends. We've shared many good times. We've gone to several movies together. We hang out quite a bit, and he's just one of the sweetest, kindest human beings. And like, I always tell people that he's one of those people that, like, you can go up to him, and if you don't know him at all, you've never met him in your life, you will feel like you've known him for years, just because of how warm he is, how down to earth he is, and how like open he is to just so many things. He's just, I I can't say a single negative thing about the guy. Every moment I get to spend with him, it's truly an honor. I love bringing him to random horror movies. I took him to go see Mandy, which was a I'm like, look, man, this movie's gonna, it's a fucked up movie. It's gonna be out there. You really like it. And we like I said, we have many a good time with each other, on set, off set, and there's something about Terry as an actor also, where like the whole conversation with the phone call, because of how we were shooting, we shot the whole film in 4 days and we did pickups, but that whole 8-minute conversation was shot in 2 hours with as much coverage as we could get, which is unheard of. Normally you spend a full day on something like that.
Yeah.
But Terry and the actor that did the voice, David Mork, both of them were so on point and off book. They just did full takes from start to finish. They just went boom. They just kept going in every line, not missing a beat. And it was like, when you have someone who is that good, who is, I don't like saying anyone's a master of the craft, but is that good with their craft and is able to do that with the material. It's like, as a director and as a writer, it's like, it's very, it really warms my heart, and it really makes me like so happy. I'm trying to think of a better word, but like, it just makes you so excited and happy because you're like, wow, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's a dear friend, and I absolutely love the guy.
You mentioned earlier on, so the last call is, are you planning on making this a longer movie, or did you say, or
yeah.
Good. Yeah.
So the last call would be like, the short would be like the middle section of the movie. There's like a whole ending that happens after the ending of that. I don't want to say anything about that, but there's also like stuff that happens at the beginning. There's more stuff with the killer. There's I added in a couple of characters and stuff like that, and we really play up a lot of the old versus new type of stuff. That whole mythology that Harry's addicted to this, to the new. He wants that. He loves the fact that he's going over to XM radio. He loves the fact that he's not going to have to deal with these old reel-to-reels and all the stuff that's going wrong with the station. And he's like, okay, I'm good with this shit. So there's a lot more. There's also a lot more phone calls. There's a lot more cat and mouse type of thing. I'm heavily inspired by films. For the last call, I was heavily inspired by films like When a Stranger Calls, Play Misty for Me. Black Christmas is one of my all-time favorite horror films. That film terrifies me. Those phone calls always got me, and it transcended into films like Scream and all that. But like, if you ask me, the scariest phone conversations, it's listening to that voice call up those poor sorority girls on that phone. And there's always been something about, I was a big prankster. So like, I also knew like when you would have someone on the phone, it feels like they're in your house, even though they're not there. Yeah. And it just, this uncertainty with things. And I feel like with this type of, with Last Call, with the feature version of it, I really wanted to play more on the whole stigma of the killer is already in the house. The killer is already at the radio station. And you don't know that. And how long does it take for the characters to start figuring all of this out? And once they do, a radio station, if you've ever been in one, they're in big, bulky, brick, like, they're not easy buildings to get out of. They're just little bit of mazes with tons of quarters to hide behind and booths and all this stuff. And it's like, there's this automatic claustrophobia that's already instilled in the radio station, which is beautiful. And few films have really touched upon it. Yeah. I've tried to find them. I've gone out of my way to look for them, and especially when writing it, because I wanted to see what else had been done with this. And not too much, So with that feature, we really want to go. We want to get in some bigger names as well. Terry obviously will be playing reprising Harry Cunningham again. But we want to get some other names speckled through it. Probably in the lead radio station's role. There's a detective that's there also that I have a couple people in mind for, and I wrote a role, and I'm hoping for this because I'm a huge John Carpenter fan, as you can see. I got my Big Trouble Little China shirt. And, I want to get Peter Jason. I'm hoping I have a few talks with him, but I want to get Peter Jason for a small role. Has been in like every Carpenter film and that type of a thing. But because I love putting like little homages. Dark Offerings has tons of homages to characters' names. I'll ruin one of them for everybody, but from Fright Night. Michael Levy's character's name is Peter Vincent Jr., and he's supposed to, which is obviously Peter Vincent, Roddy McDowell's role in Fright Night. But like, we love putting in those types of things, and I really want to make something with the feature of Last Call that is thrilling, fast-paced, like the short, but just extended over like 90 minutes. Yeah. But hopefully we'll see what happens. The short's done well. It's done great. It's been screening all over the place. It's going to be supposed to be screening at Days of the Dead, and then it's screening again at New Jersey HorrorCon. It'll be screening there in March, as long as all things keep going good and everything happens. And so it'll be screening there, and it's just got picked up by a drive-in roadshow, and I can't think of the name of it right now because there's so many other things, but it'll be screening regularly at a drive-in as part of a collective. So it's getting out there. It's won tons of awards. It's won, so it's like everyone that's seen it has really jived with it. They really dug it. So hopefully they feel the same way about the feature version.
Well, they will. Like I say, I thought it was brilliant. Like, it was really hard to try and do a review on it because you can't really say much. It's like you just got to say it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Just keep an eye out for it, and that's all you can kind of say because you don't want to give anything away.
Yeah.
It's really difficult, especially because, like you said, you're making it into a feature as well, so you really don't want to say anything, and it's really difficult. But yeah, I think when people do see it, I can imagine why it's so popular and why it's winning awards. What sort of awards does it win?
It won. So it won. I won Best Director. The film won Best Feature. Oh yeah, Best Feature. I wish. It won Best Picture. Terry won an award for Best Actor. The whole cast has won awards. Let's see. We won. No, wait, it's this way. We won this one at the SOS Indie Film Fest in Ohio. The Fleece Rose Award. That's how we got the quote for the film because Felicia saw it there and absolutely loved the film. She really, really, really did, which really warmed my heart because I've been a fan of hers since I was a kid. When I saw Sleepaway, she haunted my nightmares. But we got awarded that, which was the Felicia Rose Award for Best Film, which was her personal pick, and it's won Best Screenplay, Best Creepy Actor, Best. It's won a lot of stuff, which is really awesome, which really warms my heart because I'm like, for me, technically, I never ever know how anything is until people see it. You know what I mean? It's like I always think, oh, okay, this is bad. This movie's never gonna know. Everyone's because I see it so many times. I see every flaw. I see like every cut that I'm like, oh, I wish it was this. I wish it was that.
Yeah.
When people do like it, I'm like, oh my God, that makes it all worth it. When someone says they enjoy the film, when someone jumps at it, when someone laughs when they're supposed to, a lot of people tend to laugh at Elizabeth's line when she's like, well, fuck this, let's give him what he wants. I'm not dying as an unpaid intern. People really dig that line. Like, it's stuff like that makes all the hardships. And Last Call had several. Like, it almost never even came out.
Really?
Oh yeah. We had an editor that stole the film for like 6 months. We had lots of stuff. We couldn't find We couldn't find a basement. The basement sequence in that film is shot 6 months away from the rest of the film, including because the radio station didn't have a basement. I didn't think about that while writing. I'm like, oh yeah, every building's got a basement. Trying to find a radio station in the year that we made it, I forget which year it was, is like trying to find a radio station alone was insane. It was like you couldn't find it. In New York City, there was no radio stations that worked, or they just didn't have that feel. None of them had the reel-to-reels that you saw like at the end of the film playing stuff. And so we had to shoot at a basement, and I was at the end of my ropes, and we were driving around Queens, and I'm like, look, I need a soda. I need something to drink. And we stopped off at this pizzeria, and I went inside, and I was just like, you know what, fuck it. Let me ask these guys, hey, you guys got a basement? And they were like, yeah, we got a basement. I'm like, you guys want a movie shot in there? And they're like, hold on. He talked to his dad, who didn't really speak English at all. And he translated to him and comes back, goes, sure. When you want to shoot? I was like, wait, can I see the basement? And it's the creepiest basement. The pizzeria is no longer there. It's shut down 2 weeks after we shot. Not because of us, we hope. It's all blood everywhere. No, but we cleaned up. And it's now a coffee shop actually. And I've gone in there and told them, like, oh, we kill people in your basement. Okay, I'm gonna go get my coffee. But we found that basement, shot in it, and that was actually shot with Steve and Michael from Fuzz on the Lens. The reshoots we did with those came down with the ice cream truck from Abnormal Attraction. That was their original. So that pulls up, which was really funny for the crew because I didn't tell some of the crew that they'd be pulling up in this ice cream. Oh man, yeah, that was great. The looks in their faces, like, they're like, where did you find these guys? I'm like, oh no, don't worry, it'll be fine. But like, the thing was that like, I don't know if you got to talk to Steve at all, but Steve, he shoots most of the stuff, and Steve's he's such like a down to earth, but like let's just fucking do it type of thing. For instance, the shot with the glass, a friend of mine, Michael Aiken, who I did I was an art director when he's a production designer, prop master, and we were working on the show I Am Homicide, and so I got advice about him, like how to do that cracked window shot, which I won't say anything more about, but we're doing it, and like we only got one plexi because low budget, so we had a plexiglass and we cracked it in the middle, and I'm like beyond nervous, my anxiety's going through the roof. I'm like, this thing cracks and it gets shattered, like we're done, like the shot's over. And Steve just comes over and goes, why don't we just do it? Like, look, why don't we do this? We'll tape the whole sides. Like, we'll make this like this, and he just like, we come over, we both crack it, we put it up, and we just shoot it, and it's one of the coolest shots in the film, in my opinion. But like even other things, doing props, I'm very set safe type of a guy. So we were doing these setups where I was trying to be safe, not shooting bows and arrows, And, and like, he was like, listen, if we put up a flag and we keep everyone on this side and whatnot, like we can make this work. And it's that type of energy that, like no matter what, we can make it happen. And that's what I love. That's what I love about those guys. It's like, there is no no's. There is no, we can't. It's going to happen. And a lot of Last Call became better because of that. Yeah. So like, doing those reshoots, almost all the killer stuff is reshot. Just because like when we originally shot it, the lighting it was too dark on him. We couldn't really see him and stuff. So when we reshot, like Steve just really took control of those types of things. Sorry, my phone keeps going up, so I'm turning it off because I'm unprofessional right now. Second, don't know why my ringer's going off like crazy. Okay, and it's off. Sorry about that. Um, but um, but yeah, like one of the things that I've kind of learned from commentaries and from some of my favorite filmmakers and some of my favorite films is that the best films ever made are the ones that never should have been made. Evil Dead, for example, if you listen to the commentary of that film about how that film, every step of the way, they got hit with stuff like actors quitting. Hell, there's shots in the film when they all go into the fruit cellar and for the first time they hear the voices and the camera's looking straight up at them from the ground and it's looking at the ceiling not being there. There's no roof on that cabin. It's Sam Raimi's like, fuck it, let's just shoot it. Who cares? And it's like, there's just so many things. Or like the movie Jaws, where the shark keeps sinking. And it's like, these films technically should have been canceled, like whatever, we can't do it. But they didn't stop. They kept going and they just kept pushing forward. And they ended up making these phenomenal pieces of work. And I'm a very stubborn person. So when things don't go right, even when we lost the film for 6 months, kept pushing forward. We kept saying, screw it, we're not going to let this go. We're not going to say, this film's gone. We're going to find a way to make it happen, and then now the film's out there. So, hopefully it did a good job.
How it might seem like a weird question, but how did it go missing for like that long? Like
the editor that we had, went back home to Italy for personal reasons and just took the film with him and then went ghost on us. And he had the cut of the film. Like we had the original footage, but he just had the cut of the film and wouldn't respond. So for 6 months, we were dead in the water. The film was supposed to come out a full year before it did. So because of that, we had to get a different editor. We had to do a whole bunch of other stuff. And Gabe D. Verona, who also did all the sound design and the 5.1 mix for the film and helped us recut it and all that stuff. He did an amazing job and also cut the trailer, who will be cutting the trailer for Dark Offerings. But Gabe's amazing. I love that dude. And got the film out there, because of it.
Awesome. Does it so like when you pushed forward with it, you managed to get it all sorted out, but does that put, because obviously you've had the last call coming out and it's been a bit of a hectic time, then you've had the Dark Offerings that you've been making and stuff like that. Does it get hard work trying to balance it all and keep it all together, if that makes sense?
It makes sense, and yes, it can. It's one of those things where it's like there's so much going on. You know what I mean? Like we'll get stuff about Last Call, we'll get, and then at the same time, it's like we're doing press for Dark Offerings, and we're doing, and it can become overwhelming, but it's one of those things where it's like multitasking helps, having a great producer like Elizabeth, she's amazing with all this stuff as well. And, being able to balance everything off of each other with that, it really, truly helps, with Last Call, luckily, with it being just out there, that is a very different phase for us. That's more of like, now it's out, now it's having its fun. You know what I mean? It's like building a treehouse for your kid. You know what I mean? So it's like the building, the acquiring everything and the building of it can be fun, but it also sucks because it's like you got to get out there, you're building, got to make sure it's safe, all that stuff. And then once it's built, you still got to monitor it, you still got to watch it, because you got to make sure it's not going to fall apart. But you get to watch it now be enjoyed, and that part's fun, and it's like, oh, well, look, there's three, my son or daughter's in there, and they brought their friends over, now they're enjoying it, type of thing. And it's kind of like, that's kind of like how it is now with Last Call. Like Last Call's out there, it's doing great, and it's like I'm seeing my child go out into the world and how it's being how it's being accepted or not accepted or disliked or liked. And it's really cool, to see that. Like right now we have this coming out. But we also have our web series that we did a second episode of, Janice and the Golden Fleece, which is a comedy series that's like it's like Mel Brooks style. It's Mel Brooks and like Monty Python style humor.
Yeah.
So, about a young peasant named Janice who's destined to find the missing pieces of the Golden Fleece to stop an evil dragon that is going to destroy the lands. And it's very like sarcastic, very funny humor, and it's over the top. The second episode we shot last year, where we actually built a cave, a full cave in our backyard, because I have a lot of these on my Instagram, the videos of it being made and all that stuff. And it takes place because we wanted to do the Gray Sisters, which are 3 blind sisters that all have an all-seeing eye that they share amongst them. We went more with the gross adaptation of it, where it's just gross humor. It's like, I mean, there's so much puke in that episode. It's not even funny. Like, it's buckets of puke, literal buckets of puke. But we really went above and beyond with that. But we have that we're trying to finish at the same time that we're doing this. So it becomes a balancing act, you know. Janice has always been kind of a pet project of ours, where we do it for fun. We love it. We have a blast making it. Everyone on set has a blast making it. It's just so much fun, goofy, funny humor that, you know, right now, currently, we're in post. It's all cut. We have a CG orb. We've got maps. We've got all these crazy things in it. And we're just trying to get a name actor to do the voice of the sarcastic orb that guides Janice through the ways. More along the lines of gives her shit throughout the whole thing. But we're trying to find some some type of like a voiceover actor to do that, like some type of like a name actor to do that. We think we have someone. I don't want to say who or jinx anything, but we may have found somebody to do that. So we have that, and it's a hard balancing act, you know. Because you want to get them all out, you want to get them all going at the same time, but you know, this took on a life of its own. And right now, this is like, we want to get this out there. You know, it's a film that we shot during the pandemic, created during quarantine, when, you know, there's a lot of projects coming out now, but this was one of the first that was really doing this, because we did this literally. It got locked down. I was shooting a short in Ukraine, came back, and literally within a week, we started going on this. And this just kind of got going, and then all of a sudden, like as you saw, every website picked it up, and so now it's like this is taking more focus off of Janice from finishing that. So now it's like, okay, we're gonna really focus on this, and we're in a very good spot with this one. And you know, now I can start looking back at some of the stuff with Janice and be like, okay, let's get this actor, let's get these little bits fixed, let's get this color correction going, and let's start releasing that. Because we would love to be able to release them both kind of along the same waves, around the same time, because we want to do more episodes of Janice. There's 5 episodes written. Episode 1, the original one that we created for a bar, Sparrow film project, it was a bar contest, and we won audience choice. And that's kind of how Janice kind of spawned up. And it had to be a 3-minute short. Could not be a second longer than 3 minutes, including credits. So it had to be 3 minutes. It had to be, we spun a wheel. So we got Jason and the Golden Fleece. It had to be a prequel. It was either remake, prequel, or sequel. We got prequel. And then you could spin a wheel that had like times and like Dark Ages, or the Middle Ages, or the 1990s, 1980s. We got the Dark Ages. So basically, we spent $500 on this. So for $500, we had to make a fucking prequel to Jason, and it looked good. So I mean, that's on YouTube now. If you type in Janice and the Golden Fleece, it'll pop up. And it's a 3-minute little short that we shot in Central Park, mind you, where I made one of our actors, who's actually also in Last Call, Jeff Lear, plays a troll in it, and we made him We put troll makeup on him and made him take the train into Central Park. He looked at me and he's like, dude, what if I recognize one person recognizes me in this shit? I'm like, dude, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. Just sitting on the train seats like this with full troll makeup. Oh man. And of course it's New York, so nobody batted an eye. Everyone was just like, whatever. Game of Thrones was huge. It was before that final season that never happened. So like it was like a couple seasons prior. I think they were on season 4. So people still love the show. So like everyone was like, oh, whatever, it's just a Game of Thrones thing. Who cares? But oh, man, yeah, it was good times. It was good times. So
Oh dear. How was it? Obviously, because like you had the last call that you wrote and you directed and stuff. Is it easier having someone else writing it with you? So like you and Elizabeth writing it together. Does it come together easier?
Oh, go on.
No, yeah, that's all I was going to say. Like as a storyline, is it easier to get your ideas thrown in together, or?
I want to, you know what? It's different because when I was writing Last Call, I had no one to bounce anything off of. So it's all in my head. Everything, every word, every character, everything is my words. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know if something's working, if something's not working until it's written. I hand it to someone, they go, okay, this is garbage. Or like, oh, this is amazing. And when it came to like Dark Offerings, it was one of those experiences where like Liz would like write a section and then send it to me, and then I would go through that section and rewrite it, or like and write it with her, and then we would both look at it and we would both like, okay, this works, this doesn't. And then we would do that through like every scene. So it was like she'd write this, I'd write this, then we come together and write it together, and it was a really cool experience. I really enjoy doing that with Dark Offerings because I feel like we do touch on a lot of stuff in this film. A lot of stuff that normally doesn't get talked about, like Christianity, abortions. Like there's a lot of like heavy stuff, but we talked about it from different perspectives, from both sides, because of the fact that we wanted to have these characters be real. And that's one of the things we really wanted. We wanted the dialogue to be real. We wanted it to feel like these characters are people, are actually who they are. And they're actually talking like you and I talk normally. You know what I mean? Like there's all stuff about gamers in it. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but there's a section about video gamers. There's a little bit because they're playing video games. And I wanted the gamer talk to be really real. So, you know, like, I can't really spill anything about it, but everybody brought so much to it because of the fact that like the writing became natural, because I will say this, you know, women really write well with women. You know what I mean? Like, and men really write well with men, but like, I'm not saying that they can't cross, but having both perspectives and both voices being heard, especially when it's like subjects that are tough to talk about. You know, there's a lot of films that are written where, you know, like, and even some of my stuff where like I've written female characters and it's like, people come to me like, yeah, you didn't have a woman write this dialogue for a woman. Like, women don't talk like this. And I'm like, you know, fair enough.
Yeah.
So like having both perspective, both voices being heard in this film really brings a realism and an honesty to it. And I do not think this film would be as good had the both of us not written it together. I think if she had just written it, or if I had just written it, I think it would have been a very different film, and I don't think it would be getting as much love. And I think the two of us writing what we wanted to write and what poured out of us at the same time during what was going on, and making the strong decision to say, we don't want to mention COVID, we don't want to mention quarantine, we don't want to have this have anything to do with the current situation, because our whole point of making this is to have people escape. We want people to not think for 90 minutes about, what's going on in the world. It's like you go on Facebook, you're inundated. I mean, with it. I mean, it's whatever, whatever political view you are, whatever everything. It's like, it's just everywhere. So we wanted something to have people escape. I'm a huge movie collector. I own over like 1,000 DVDs. I'm a big physical media person. I love buying Blu-rays. I'm addicted to it, and I'm proud of it. And for me, like it's an escapism, like watching Death Wish 3, because I love Death Wish. I'm a big Charles Bronson fan. Watching those movies, or watching like an Evil Dead, or watching Abnormal Attraction, it lets you escape from reality and fall into a world that you forget all the troubles and everything. And that's the thing we wanted to do with this. And personally, I can't really speak, because no one else has seen it or whatever. But personally, I think we achieve it. I don't know. I mean, I got to wait to hear what everyone else thinks. But, to go back to the question, it's very different. And in some ways, I enjoy, in a lot of ways, I do enjoy writing with somebody. Elizabeth did a phenomenal job writing with me, and I did, vice versa. Like we brought a lot to this script, a lot of our own personal feelings and emotions. And I feel that it really made Dark Offering something that I think will really stand out. And that's what we want. We didn't want to just make something to be like, hey, look, we shot this during, whatever, we made it, and here you go. Yeah. We wanted to make something that stood out, that also 10 years from now, people look back and don't just say, oh, yeah, they made a little film during this, and that's what it was, and it's cool for that. Because there's lots of films out there where you're like, for its time, it was great, but, it hasn't aged too well. We don't want that with this. We want people to be able to say, yes, they made it. How did we say it before? We wanted the selling point to be that this is a film shot during the pandemic, but we didn't want to be that. We didn't want the film to have to stand on that. We wanted people to be like, oh, they shot this during the pandemic, and then have it be its own film.
Yeah.
Type of deal, and I think that with everything, it's hopefully something that we actually ended up achieving, that people will down the line. I mean, I could be completely wrong. Who knows? I mean, everyone might just be like, oh, yeah, no, it's just that little pandemic film.
No, it makes sense what you're saying. It really does. Like I say, you're getting people to, they'll know it's made in the pandemic, but when they watch it, they won't think that. They won't, because there was too much going on in the film. Like you said, and it's an escape. It's something completely different, and in their heads there will be no pandemic. There will be nothing. It is what they are watching in front of them, and that's what movies are about. And that again, that's why I'm addicted to them. I've been watching horror movies since I was a little kid. I remember I woke up late one night, and I can't remember how old I was. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and it was about 11 o'clock at night, and I went downstairs and I said to my dad, the usual, I've been sitting in my room wide awake, and I said, I can't sleep. And he said, well, I'm not turning the bloody film off. And he was watching The Woman in Black, the original Woman in Black film. And I remember sitting there watching it as a kid, and it absolutely terrified me. But I can promise you, I always went to bed after that because I didn't want to go down and watch another horror movie. And then I did, and then it just started from there, and that's where I got the love of it from. And where did it all start for you? Where did your love for horror films and films come from?
So those are two. There's two answers for that for me, because for me as a kid, I hated horror films. I was petrified of horror films. I couldn't watch them. I learned to swim, and my mother made me watch Jaws, and then I couldn't jump into the friggin' deep end. I can jump into the deep end. She's like, oh, that's great. Hey, you should watch Jaws now. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, by myself. That was fun. And Jaws is one of my favorite movies. I love Jaws. I can quote, hell, The Hat.
Yes, yeah.
I love that film. and I could go on for days about Jaws. But I was always a movie fan. I would sneak downstairs while they would watch movies at night, and I would watch films, with them. They wouldn't know. They'd finish the movie and find me passed out on the staircase. Oh, great. He just watched this movie. Good job. And it'd be like Death Wish 3. You know what I mean? My dad would be watching and be like, well, okay, well, I guess you saw that. But I ended up, like Ghostbusters was one of my favorite films as a kid growing up. I love Ghostbusters, Indiana Jones. I used to play make-believe and, pretend to be Indiana Jones running around outside. And I was more of an action adventure guy, Goonies. I loved all the Ernest movies. Like, I'm a big Ernest collector. I love Ernest P. Worrell. I have every one of his movies, minus Ernest Rides Again, which you cannot get anywhere. It's very hard to find. But, then I saw Army of Darkness in the theater. I was one of the 5 people that saw that film in the theater. And I became addicted to this film. I remember counting. It was a film that I would watch religiously once it hit VHS. And in between that time, I had discovered Briscoe County Jr., which was a great show with Bruce Campbell. But Army of Darkness. And then I remember I went into a video center at the time. And before IMDb, they used to have these giant books that would be like, you open them up and it would be like, Roger Ebert says that this film gets 3 stars, blah, blah, blah. And it would tell you the cast and whatever. And it was like a prehistoric IMDb. Bits and gigs, I looked up Army of Darkness. And I flipped through and it said, a little spiel about Army of Darkness. And it said, prequel, Evil Dead 2. Prequel, Evil Dead. And I was like, oh, there's more of these. So I tracked down those 2. And for some odd reason, I'd always been drawn to those box arts. I would go into the horror section, and I would just look at the box arts, and they'd creep me out. Like, Chucky fucked me up as a kid. Yeah. I had Frank on it, too. He bought, like, a stupid doll and put, like, a fake bat in his hand and put we had a karaoke machine, so he put the karaoke machine in the closet behind the doll and hid outside my door. And when he heard my voice go, what is that? He was like, I'm going to kill you, little shit. Trampled him, ran out the room. I slept in a collie and a sheltie at the time. Champagne and Chablis. I swear they weren't, my parents were not alcoholics. I swear to God. And I was petrified, like, fuck Chucky. I mean, I love Chucky now, but fuck him. Scared the shit. And so I tracked down Evil Dead 2 and Evil Dead. And then I watched, Evil Dead was just like out. So I watched Evil Dead 2 and it scared me, but I loved it. And unfortunately for my dad, we're Jewish, so my father was very, like, you got to go to Hebrew school. Unfortunately, I discovered Evil Dead 2. So Hebrew school just failed. That became my life, was Evil Dead 2. And then I finally saw Evil Dead, and it was the scariest fucking film I'd ever seen in my life. That film took me 3 tries to watch it. I tried watching it because, you're coming off of Army of Darkness, which is fun and goofy and everything. And Evil Dead 2 is goofy. It's a little creepier, but it's goofy. Evil Dead. My dad walked in the scene where Scotty's chopping up Shelly, and she's screaming, no, Scott, you love her! And the blood is just squirting everywhere, and I have the collie and a sheltie in headlocks, rocking back and forth. I've never seen anything like it. And I was traumatized. My father's just like, we can't let him watch this. He's never going to sleep. He's got to stop. It took me 3 tries to watch this film. And to this day, I've watched it a million times. To this day, I still jump. And you've seen Evil Dead, right? Yeah. So the scene where Ash is against the door, and he's looking at the locket, and he looks right, and he looks left, and he starts to slowly look, and the hands come through. No matter what, I still fucking jump at this. It doesn't matter. I still jump. is to me the greatest cheap scare. And I know a lot of people they're like whatever about that cheap scare, but for me it fucks me up every time. Ever since then, after that I started watching Joe Bob Briggs. He used to host a show called Monster Vision on TNT, where he would watch movies late at night, and I started getting insomnia on Saturday nights because of Joe Bob. And I just started watching everything. And when TNT canceled the show and got rid of him, I was like, okay, well, I got to find my own way to watch horror films. And then I just sought them out. I went to Hollywood Video and Blockbuster and started doing my own little, sorry, there's a fly. And I started doing my own little Joe Bob type of things. And I just became addicted to horror films. And from there, I launched the website and I started doing reviews, and I was interviewing everybody. That's how I interviewed Romero. I interviewed the entire cast of Devil's Rejects, The Fog, anybody I wanted to, all these horror icons. I got to go up to them, and I had an excuse to be like, hey, can I, interview you? And it was, at the time, it was unheard of because I didn't really do that. There was 5 websites at the time. I think it was my website. There was Gates of Gore, which was Christy Langford, which I think is still up. There was Horror Domain. There was Upcoming Horror Films. And I think Arrow in the Head. It was. Arrow in the Head was still going at the time. He had just started, John Fallon had started that with Joe Blow. And we all just kind of just moved forward with all that stuff. And it was so cool being able to meet these people and talk to them just about all these films. Cause cons were amazing. I mean, that's how originally that's how I met almost everybody from Day of the Dead. Funny story. I met everybody from Day of the Dead minus 2 people. Jarlath Conroy, who plays McDermott, and Terry. Never met those 2. Everybody else, Laurie, Joe Pilato, Gary Clark, Romero, everybody else from the film, I had met. Those 2 never did the cons in Boston. So when I finally met Terry, I was like, I found you. Yes. I got to get this DVD signed now. But
no, go on. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, but yeah, but my love for horror has, as Rob Zombie would say, I have an insatiable love for horror, or an insatiable love for the dead. It's just, I just consume it. Now, it's just if I don't get it, it's like coffee for me. I just tweak.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm exactly the same. If I don't have a coffee, I've got a horror film on. If I haven't got a horror film on, I've got a coffee on. It's just constant, and it does kind of consume your life a little bit. I'm the same. Some days I'll have to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I'm still there at 3 o'clock watching horror films.
Yes.
And then I'm start clock watching, and I'm like, I've got to be up in 3 hours. And I'm like, well, there's no point going to sleep now. I might as well put another film on. So that's what I do. So that's how it goes.
Yeah. And you're just fuck it. And then you go into the next day. It's always why I started doing the reviews, was because it got to a point where I was renting. And this is back when you could rent. Blockbuster had a limit. I found out they had a limit. 10 movies, 10 VHS or 5 DVDs. And if you mix them, you could kind of get away with something. I would show up and I would hit them with 10 fucking VHS. And they'd start scanning oh yes, because I used to be a very, proper, I don't want to say preppy, but I used to dress very preppy, with a polo shirt and nice pants and clean shaving and very short hair. And I looked like the guy that should be renting, Austin Powers. Oh, okay. And they'd be like, oh, what's this movie? Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Monster Mash, or whatever the hell. Oh, what's that movie? Monster Truck, something. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, 3, 4. And you see them as they go through the list and be like, and they start getting scared. And I would watch these because they'd only be 2-day rentals. I would watch 10 of these films back to back to back. And people just got sick of me being like, oh, hey, have you ever seen, Knock Knock, or like, blah, blah, blah. Like, have you ever seen this like horror film that you didn't know, like Neon Maniacs or Shockwaves, and they'd be like, we don't know this film. We don't care. Like, that's how I found the internet. And I was like, okay, let me tell people about this film. And, that's the thing, man. Horror has got such a beautiful energy, and it's got such like if you've never been to a con, I always recommend people go to cons, because a good con, you will meet family people that become your family, and it's your con family, because you're surrounded for 3 days with people that eat, sleep, and breathe horror, that talk about horror, that are like you, that will stay up till they have to go to work and sacrifice any type of like well restedness, just so that they can watch Friday the 13th Part 8, because you started that night with Friday the 13th Part 5, and you have to get through the Part 4, and you have to get through the Tommy Jarvis arc. You can't stop. And Jason's already in Manhattan now, so we got to see him go to space. So why not? I mean, it's one of the most beautiful things, and it's why I love this genre. I really do. There's so much creativity, and it's the only genre that encompasses all the genres. A great horror film, like take Shaun of the Dead. It's got horror, it's got comedy, it's got drama, it's got romance, because it is, as the tagline says, a romantic comedy with zombies.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's got everything.
They've got Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. They've got a new series coming out on Amazon called Truth Seekers. Because they've done like the zombies, they've done the alien robots, they've done Aliens with Paul. They've done the serial killer, and they always want to do the paranormal. So they've made it a series now rather than a film. So again, that's one I'm sitting there waiting to come out, and I'm like, come on! It said later this year, and I'm like, come on.
Man, I have a giant World's End poster that I got at the premiere. I try to go to every premiere of Edgar Wright's stuff, because Edgar Wright for me he has become one of my favorite filmmakers. I think Edgar Wright is the most brilliant filmmaker we have alive current today, because every one of his films, literally, it starts off, it grabs you, pulls you into its world, sits you down, and you're on a ride till the very end. Every single thing he's done, it has this uncanny energy, and it has I love the writing, I love the homages. Edgar Wright is just, to me, he's one of the most brilliant filmmakers, because he gets film. That man eats, sleeps, and breathes film. And I've yet to see a film of his where I've been like, meh, every one of them. Like, I could talk any of his films for days. Even Space. Space is one of the greatest TV shows. Yeah. And it's energy, Baby Driver. I loved Baby Driver. And I think Baby Driver was one of those films that normally I wouldn't watch. I'm not a big heist movie guy, because you always see them, for me, the heist movies, they tend to blur together. But Baby Driver just stood out because it wasn't a film with music. It was music with a film. And he shot it to that music. And it had such a surreal energy to it that was just like, holy crap. Like, even the beginning of it, when like baby's in the car and he's messing with the windshield wipers. He's like, okay, look, guys, this is what's going to happen. Notice the visuals. It was like an intro to a video game. Yeah. Like, you see, we're not going to go the normal way. It's going to be to the beat of the music. And boom, here we go. And that movie just doesn't stop. And I absolutely love him. Shaun of the Dead is one of my favorites. It's tied with World's End now. World's End's very personal to me. I went to that premiere of it, and they had these giant standees, and I saw someone grab one at the last second, so I grabbed the other one. They had already left, unfortunately, so I never got it signed. But I've met them. I've met Edgar 4 times, I think, three or 4 times, and got him to sign a few things. And it's just, I'm so excited for the TV show with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, but I'm also super excited for Last Night in Soho.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm just stoked.
See, we struggle over here with. I find that we struggle with horror films, and we struggle with the cons as well. That the horror movies. We've got some great horror films. Don't get me wrong, but some of them lack a lot of energy to them. They come across a little bit slow and a little bit lazy.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we do struggle, and it's a shame because we have got some great movies out there. There's a film, I don't know if you've seen it, there's a film called Mum and Dad.
I have seen that one with Nick Cage, right?
They live near the airport, and they've got they keep a they like coax the girl to come and like stay, and they keep them as their kids, and if they don't behave, they beat the shit out of them and torture them and stuff like that. And that's a really good film, but it was just it was a low budget film, but that they're the sort of films I enjoy watching, but they don't get out there as much because they do kind of over here. You will get the bigger names get put out there, and they will go top of the list and get shown everywhere. And then you get the smaller films over here that struggle, and it's difficult. I find for the British to produce a decent horror movie.
That's a great point. Neil Marshall did Dog Soldiers, which
yes, yeah,
Dog Soldiers is one of my favorite werewolf movies. It's up there. I think that film had such raw kinetic energy to it, and to me is easily one of the greatest werewolf movies of all. I love that. I love that movie. I just got the Blu-ray of it from Shout Factory, and I got it like 3 months ago, only to find out that they just found, I believe they found the actual negatives from the film, because that was like an issue, I guess. They couldn't find the negatives, so they just did it off of like the DVD or whatever. But they found the negatives, and they actually did a real 4K restoration of the film. And I'm like, oh, I need that now. Like,
wasn't that Dog Soldiers was one where they didn't have a lot of budget, and they only used like one wolf, didn't they? Like, or two. That they didn't have many wolf movies.
They did have, I think they had 3 full suits.
Was it 3?
But they kept it like all tight because it was all in one location, you know. And they got really lucky with, like, I guess, like who they were able to hire and everything, and their cast is amazing. You got Sean Connery, Kevin McKidd, you got Lord Davos from Game of Thrones. You know, everyone in that movie is so good. And it's, like also what's the other one? It has Nick Frost in it. Attack the Block.
Attack the Block, yes, brilliant film. Yeah, I love that one. Yeah,
that's one of those films that, like, that film, you got to get past the first 10 minutes because of the slang, which I find most people, they can't get into it because of the slang. I'm like, I couldn't get into it. The first time I watched it, I didn't understand what they were saying. And then once you hear it enough, you start like picking up on like, oh, that means that. That means that.
Yes.
Once you realize what they're saying, that film just becomes a brilliant, underrated thing. And it's one of the first films with John Boyega. I absolutely love that film. And Nick Frost is amazing. He's a pothead drug.
It's excellent. Yeah. Have you seen one about Dog Soldier? Not Dog Soldiers. Doghouse.
No.
Danny Dyer.
No. I'm right now. Where's it?
It's called Doghouse. It stars Danny Dyer. It's a similar sort of thing along the lines of Shaun of the Dead. You got that comedy horror to it. And I would highly recommend you give it a watch. You've got to watch Doghouse. It is one that will make you laugh. It's not zombies as such. They go. I'll tell you a little bit about it. They go to a small village because one of their friends are broken up with his missus. And they go to this village, and there's no one there, and it's just overrun by these psychotic zombie bitch women that are possessed, and it's definitely worth a watch. It's brilliant. It's a really good film.
All right, I'll definitely check that out. I just wrote it down on my thing. Like, I'm always looking for new films, and I've been on a werewolf kick lately. I just did the whole Howling series, which is a very interesting series. Like, I didn't want to do while I've been chopping this one. I didn't want to do like a TV series, because when I do TV series, I get sucked in and I just can't stop with them. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna binge something. So I'm gonna binge the Howling series, which he made some really wacky ones with that. Oh, man, yeah, like it was really funny though. I had Howling 7 is impossible to find. It's impossible to get. It never got past VHS. So it's only on VHS, and the VHSs are selling on eBay for like $50-$60. And I'm like, this movie's not worth that. I'm sorry, it's not. When I made a post about it, people started messaging me privately and were just like, and it was like the underground drug that people were like, you want that crack? You want that crack? It was like, you want that Howling 7? I got that Howling 7. What have I touched upon? What am I getting myself into? And watching it, I'm shocked. The Howling 7 is not more watched. Well, it's probably because no one can get it. But it's up there for bad movies with like The Room, Birdemic, like all these films. It's up there because the film has one werewolf only at the end for literally 2 seconds, and it is like, well, no, we don't want you to think this is a werewolf. So we cut back to hoedowns. There are more hoedowns deaths in a Quentin Tarantino movie. Okay, there's fart jokes. Then the biggest villain of the film is dirt, because it gets into Pappy's chili, and that becomes like a storyline in this. And I'm like, what am I watching with this movie? It's just like, oh my god! But it's like, that's the thing I also love about horror. Like, I love good horror. I love bad horror. Like, I love all shades, because it just gets, there's so much enjoyment in watching a bad horror movie, almost as much as there is watching a good one.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something that we all enjoy with just watching, all this stuff. I don't know.
Right, Marcus, I'm going to let you go because, one, it is late here in the UK. But I have already taken up quite a lot of your time. But honestly, I cannot thank you enough for letting me see The Last Call and talking to me tonight. I've absolutely loved it.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you watching and taking the time out to watch it, man.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Like I said, I am going to be over there in March, and I can't wait to meet everybody.
Yeah, man. I'll be there.
I cannot wait to see the Dark Offerings. I can't wait to see what else you've got coming out after the Dark Offerings. I think things are just going to keep going up and up and up, and you're going to be so busy. One day you'll be like, you'll be like, who was you? Who was you again? But no, I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. It really does.
I appreciate you taking the time out to interview me, man. This has been a blast, man.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been really good fun. Like, I want to do it again once the movie's out. I'd like to interview you again just to see how the feedback's been from the film. And
definitely. And I'm a Walking Dead poster, so we can always chat about Walking Dead as well.
Oh yes, yeah. I was a big boy. Believe it or not, just a quick story. We have a thing over here called Horror at Hinchinbrook. It's a big haunt. I'm a part-time ghost hunter as well, by the way, just to throw that in. But every year we have a big horror event called Horror at Hinchinbrook House. It's like a walkabout maze and stuff like that. We was there, I think it was not last year, but the year before. They had a Walking Dead scene. So they put a bag on your head and they lead you into this room. And lo and behold, they take the bag off your head and there stood in front of me Negan. And
Nice.
to actually, like, everybody in the room stood there and was like, is that Negan? And I was like, it looks like him and it must be him. And he come over to me and he whispered and goes, that's because I am Negan. But it wasn't. It was a guy, I can't remember his name. I'm friends with him on Facebook, but he was they call him the UK Negan. Yeah. And he's a dead ringer for Negan. He does the accent spot on and everything like that. And he's talking to everybody like he does with a baseball bat, and he's choosing somebody. And I turned around and said, suck my nuts. He chose me, and he got me on my knees, and he recreated the scene where he was going to play my head in. And that was, I just had the biggest smile on my face, getting ready for this guy to smash me over the head with a baseball bat. But
that's amazing.
You have to search him up, UK Negan, and honestly, he's a spitting image of him, and everybody thought it was him. But yeah, it was good.
That's good. People that said it's too gory have never really watched horror films. I still love the show. I still watch it today. The Whisperer has been amazing for me. I love it. I mean, I am still Team Negan. So.
Right. Anyway, I will let you go, but thank you so much.
Thank you, my man. Thank you for having me on, and until we do this again.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
Cheers, man.
See you later. That was Marcus Slabine. He is fucking awesome. I absolutely loved that interview. He is one hell of a top bloke. Honestly, I want everybody to keep an eye out for the Dark Offerings and for the Last Call and whatever else this guy has coming up. He's fucking awesome. Thank you again for that, Marcus. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys later. Thank you. Bye.